Hello, I want to welcome our viewers to the Lava Report. This is one of our series where we're interviewing and highlighting athletes, those individuals who have impacted our communities. We have a special guest today in our third interview in our series, and I think this interview today will highlight one of our workshops where we talk about from the high chair to the electric chair. I think some of the points that will be made will be very valuable in this. We have the Reverend Julius Lancaster from the I Am Church. He's also an entrepreneur. He has a commercial cleaning company, and also, I just found out, part owner of a grocery store, and that's huge. I grew up with this gentleman, a fierce competitor, highly educated African American male. The Louder Report wants to welcome Reverend Julius Lancaster. How are you today, sir? Good morning.
I'm doing good, man. Good morning, man. Appreciate the opportunity, man, to sit and chat with y'all for a little bit.
Yeah, so it was, you were so busy, man, and I know we were texting back and forth the other day, and you were like, I was telling you when I first got saved that how terrified I was, man, and you was like, I'm still scared, man. So, and we were able to share some scriptures, and I remember, I think even last night you were highlighting some of the things in the Old Testament as far as Abel and Cain, and maybe we'll talk about some of that later. So,
yeah,
we just want to go through your journey, man. How did you start? How did you get into sports, man? What was up, man? What got you into sports?
you know, I look back just, as I look back on it and just really think about it. Just growing up, man, in Canton and around everybody that was playing sports and stuff, and that's just what you did as a youngster. You competed, you played, and so just really took a liking to it and stuff like that. So I think just really growing up in the neighborhood, man, that's what the young guys was doing, and so I kind of gravitated towards that. Of course, I had some older cousins and uncles and stuff that played ball and stuff like that. So just looking up to them and seeing what they were doing and stuff like that. So I think it's one of those things. It's almost like that Canton is you play football, you play basketball as a youngin'. Canton McKinley, you got these aspirations and stuff like that. So, I kind of think it was kind of just, really organic, man, how I got into it.
Okay. So, let's say Little League, man. Let's look at Little League football. What squad? I was a Ram, and then I played for the 49ers.
So I played for the Lions for a quick second. Then, believe it or not, man, I used to be scared to play football, bro. And I played for the Lions, and then I ended up moving to Columbus and with my father when I was 9. And so I only got a chance to play for a quick year. And then I moved to Columbus and I played ball here in Columbus. And then I ended up moving back to Canton for my junior high school years.
So that's when I knew for a moment I hadn't seen you, and then you came back.
Yeah.
So did you play any ball when you were in Columbus? Like what activities did you participate in?
Yep, I played it all, bro. Basketball, football, baseball, all three of them, man. I was involved. I even played a little soccer. I was involved in all of it.
So your fears, man, the anxiety that comes, because this is, we're a mental health organization as well. We did a lot with sports science and mental health. What were some of your fears as being a young athlete like that, man, going into the sport, man? Because I know, football is violent. It's a very physical sport. What were some of your fears? Can you remember? Can you take us back to hitting that? Where did that? What was the fear?
I don't even know, to be honest with you. Like I don't know. I know I got over it pretty quick. But I think maybe just the thought of contact, I think is maybe what it was as a youngster. I don't know, man. But I never really thought about it before. But if I think about it right now, I think maybe it was the thought of maybe thinking I was going to get hurt, maybe.
Yeah. So we got you're playing. How did you? What kind of student were you? So elementary school. Did you have any? what elementary did you go to, and were there any teachers or were there any influential people in your life at that time as far as educators? And did those educators, your favorite teachers, did they have a certain style that helped you out, or what kind of student were you?
So I went to Lathrop, I went to Cedar, I went to Baxter, and then I moved to Columbus. But it wasn't until I got to Columbus that I realized, I think, that I was pretty intelligent. And it was a lady, an older lady that my father was friends with. She was an educator. Her name was Barbara Beckwith in Columbus, Ohio. And she really challenged me mentally. And she, she gave me different projects and work assignments and things of that nature just outside of school that helped me realize that, I was pretty intelligent. So I would go to summer school with her, and she would set up her classroom, and she would give me projects, and she would challenge me. And I realized at that point that I kind of had a liking towards school. So I think that was probably when I first realized that that I could be an intelligent individual. I was about 9, 10 years old.
Wow, wow. So your self-worth and your confidence was built up, and somebody supported in that.
Yeah.
So your family dynamic, you're saying that you moved from Canton to Columbus with your father. Now, you started out here with mom in Canton, or single parent household. Like, what was the family dynamic? I always ask this question.
Yeah. So my parents were married, and then they got a divorce when I was about 6 years old. And so my father moved to Columbus, and so I was being raised just by my mother from the time I was about 6 until I ended up moving to Columbus till I was 9. And my family dynamic during that time was, I would say, not good for a young boy. I was introduced and exposed to a lot of things at an early age that I didn't realize played a part in my future until later. I began to get molested at the age of about 6 years old. I was exposed to marijuana at the age of about 8, and I was just running wild, to be honest. My mom was young. She was a single mother doing the best that she could, and I was around her side of the family, and I was just exposed to some things that just 6, 7, 8-year-olds shouldn't be exposed to. And so my dad caught wind of basically the dynamic, and one of his friends called him one night. It was about midnight, and I was riding my bike over on the northeast end of Canton, and I lived on the southwest side, and it was about midnight, and they called my dad and was like, "Kenny, I just saw Julius riding his bike on the northeast side of Canton at 12 o'clock midnight." I was 8 years old. And my dad said at that moment that he realized that he needed to come get me. And so that's how I ended up moving to Columbus.
Molestation, man. I deal with a lot of youth. I've done casework, and I'm a principal, dean of students at my school, assistant principal. Man, in your psyche, that's a lot of trauma, brother. That's a lot of trauma, man. I don't know if you feel like going into detail, man. And I usually tell people it's like on the couch, but you don't got to go into too much detail. But how did the molestation play out? Like, maybe viewers watching this can think about ways, or maybe they'll say, okay, I can protect my child in this way. Like, how was the guard dropped? Or, usually that takes place with somebody close to you putting their hands on you. Or, for me, it was my babysitter. She got me, and I didn't realize, because your body is made to feel a certain way, I didn't realize that I grew up and I took a social work class, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, I was molested. And because you're a boy, if it's a woman, they'll say, "Oh, it's cool." Oh man, you know, I remember talking to my uncle about it, and my uncle Jeff was like, "Man, I wanted to hit that, man. You was," I'm, I'm like, "Nah, man." I'm like, "What you mean?" I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm messed. I still can see these things." And you know, I was about 8 years old when that took place, man. So if you know, how did the guard get? You know?
So it was my older cousin, and you know, just nobody knew, you know. And I think, you know, that's, I think you said it best. A lot of the times this was someone that's close to you. Those are the ones who are oftentimes have the greatest opportunity to hurt you, as those that are close to you. And I think one of the things that I realized, is that it kind of pained me, because for me, I thought to myself, I wonder who was doing that to her. And you know, you just think about this repetitive cycle that can be there. And but man, just, you know, I was taught a lot through that, man. I was taught how to separate my emotion from sexual encounters as a young man, as a young boy, you know, 6, 7 years old. I knew that there could be no emotional connection because this was my cousin. I was taught how to sneak and hide and be deceitful, you know, and things of that nature at a young, through that encounter, right? There was an innocence that was snatched away, that I didn't realize, you know, that I was trying to fulfill this void with criminal activity, right? I knew I needed something to fill that void, and it was there. And, you know, it's just one of those things, man. I think you said it best as well, too. A lot of the times when it happens to young boys, is somewhat overlooked. Not with everybody, but I think in a certain regard, because, you know, the body is made, you know what I mean, for sexual encounters, you know. And I think Usher said it best on his one song. He said, "That's what it's made for." Right? So it's made for that, right? But you know, it's not made to be abused. And I think, you know, when you think about it happening to a young boy, it's not that big of a deal. But when you reverse the roles and then you start saying, what would it be like for a 14 or 15-year-old? And I don't want to be too vulgar, but, you know, God has healed me from this, man, so I can talk about it freely. For a 14 or 15-year-old boy with a full blown mature genitalia penetrating, you know, an 8-year-old girl or a 9-year-old girl, it's it's traumatic.
Right. The imagery just busts your brain.
Yeah, and it's the same trauma for a young boy, because you got, let's just be real, you got some men, grown men, who don't know how to handle it. They get them a little piece of something halfway good. They chasing her around, all
Right.
you know what I'm saying? All at her job, you know what I'm saying? Tripping all outside the crib, asking who in there and all this crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? This is a grown man.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? You talking about an 8-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Trying to deal with this. It's crazy, man. So, you know, man, it's deep. It's deep, bro.
Yeah, it is. It is, man. Thanks for sharing that, man, and being vulnerable, man. So we'll take it from there. So this kid, this athlete has to put on his equipment and go on the field. This kid, this athlete has to put on his school shoes and school clothes and go into the classroom. This boy, this kid has to be taught by the educator and sit in the classroom, and all these things are running through your mind, and the different trauma, the drugs, and what you've been exposed to. And as an educator, their calling is to be able to find within themselves the skill set to be able to push you along. So you get through elementary school, and then you talked about junior high school. What was that like? And your transition from elementary to junior high school, you begin to develop. Sports is there for you. How did that look? Your transition until middle school.
So I think my transition was good. I started out middle school here in Columbus, so went to Franklin Alternative Middle for 6th and 7th grade, and man, just was around a tremendous group of friends, and began to kind of like realize who I was as a person. I excelled in the classroom, and began to play sports and get more actively involved in the competitive part of sports. You know, like you play sports because everybody else is doing it, you know, as a certain age. But then when you reach that 13, 14, 12, you start competing. And so, you know, I started competing, but you know, at the same time, I was still being molested. So, you know, I'm still dealing with that, still hiding that, you know, still almost like putting on a mask in front of people because there was this whole other world that I was engulfed in, that no one knew about. And but you know, and then I ended up moving back to Canton towards the end of my seventh grade year, right at the end of my seventh grade year, and I went to Sowers, and now it transitions from being molested and having sexual encounters with, you know, my older cousin, to now this thing is transitioned into sexual encounters with other peers of my age, you know, and so now I'm involved in sex.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. It was I think, I don't know how it kind of got, hold on, let me see. So you said it went from sexual encounters, just about 1 second back, you said it went from sexual encounters to what?
To from with my relatives, so it's transitioned from molestation,
Yeah.
to just sexual encounters with my peers,
Right.
you know, in the seventh grade, and then it just transitioned, you know what I mean, from there. And so, you know, it's just, you know, but I'm playing ball, and I'm getting good grades, and you know, I started realizing that I could do something with athleticism. You know, I started to excel, and so, you know, as a young boy, man, a lot of the times athletics will protect you from real life, almost, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
People will only want to know or only want to encounter you through an athletic lens, and not through the lens of what you really got going on as a young boy. And I think those are some of the situations, you know, we playing summer league, you know, I'm playing baseball, football, you know, all of this. And it's almost like they forget that after practice, you got a life.
Mm.
And you know what I mean? And things of that nature. And it's like, you wonder, like, you know, as I'm older, I'm wondering, like, were they really wondering what I had going on when I left practice?
Wow. Wow. So you middle school, you thrive. I remember, man, playing against you, man. You, oh man, we had some games, man.
Yeah.
Good times, man. Highly competitive, man.
Yeah.
How did you hone your skills? When did you find time to practice? Because when you hit the court, there was a certain level of play I remember that you had, man. And like I said, you came out of nowhere. We hadn't seen you for a while, and then you pop up, and you know, how you played. Where did you like? How did you develop those skills, man? What were you doing, like, you know?
And I developed those skills probably at Ninth Street Park, with my homies, you know, and playing. And like I'm saying, that's when that competition start revving up. And you know, now it's compete, and it's kill or be killed. You know what I mean? Like, this mentality just kind of switched. And you know, one of my homeboys, man, was Jeff Alexander.
Oh yeah.
Coming up, Jeff was the coldest in the city.
He was cold. The streets just had him. The
Yeah.
streets just had him, man. He'd go fishing, and at one point, I lived on the southeast end on John Court, and he stayed like almost across the street. So the mini park was right there. Chris High and
Yeah.
oh, man, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, most of us was dunking in like 7th, 8th grade. You know what I mean?
Man, let me tell you, man, Jeff was cold.
And the handles.
And he, you know, he never got a chance to really develop in high school because, like you said, them streets got to him. But man, I remember this one game, bro. We was in the 8th grade, and he just took off and yammed. I'm like, oh snap! Like, and then you remember Jamie Bosley?
Yeah, I just saw Jamie. He got that son. Me and Jamie, man, we like this because we used to, I went to Harvard, so we played all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just saw Jamie. Crazy Jamie.
Yeah.
He got a little stocky son that hoop up in Wadsworth.
So we playing Jackson in the tournament in Jackson. And so Jeff came down, was in the 8th grade, and yammed, and the ref called travel. We set up our press. They inbound the ball. He stole it right back and just yammed right back again. It was crazy. I'm like, oh my God.
Hey, because Jackson to try to cheat. They had cheat you so bad.
Yeah, they cheat.
Man, they had cheat you. And the ref would look at it. He'd call a bad call. You know how they'd ignore you and know they're wrong, but just like take that.
Yeah. Man. So I think, man, that's where, I think it developed. And then, of course, on the football field as well. So, just realizing that you want to be good, man. And you want to play, and most kids' minds in Canton during that time, playing for McKinley was the thing to do. So, just wanting to rep, man. So. Yeah.
So therefore you get to McKinley, man. Our first game of the year was Timpkin and McKinley back then, man. And I ended up, Adrian Brown and everybody was mad, man. I ended up going to Timpkin. They salty, man. They like, we all supposed to stick together, man. Oh man, I still get ate up about that, man. It's almost 30 years later. What you doing going to Timpkin, man? So, man, every year, and I was fortunate to be able to dress varsity my freshman year, but back then your freshman year was 10th grade.
Yeah.
So, we were called freshmen in the 10th grade. Our 9th grade years were played out in middle school.
Yeah.
So you get to McKinley, man. How was that, man? And that transition from, let's say, from 10th grade to 12th grade, your development.
Yeah. So I think, man, getting there at McKinley and in the 10th grade, just really seeing like what I needed to do to get to the next level, right? We had some players, bro, like on that football field, Che Bryant, you know what I mean? And he was a monster.
Yes, he was.
He played safety. So, and that's the position that I ended up playing. So just really realizing and seeing him like this dude getting recruited by every school in the country. And on the basketball court, he was a monster. You know what I mean? Like Che, in my opinion, bro, like honestly, like that's the best athlete I ever played with. Like in like all around athlete I ever played with. When you factor in an athlete, you factor in size and skill and everything. I played with some great athletes. They were on the smaller side, but just, you know what I mean? Like tremendous athlete, like with size and skill and everything. Aside from Jason Taylor at Akron, Che is the best player I ever played with. And so just realizing like, okay, so like that's how you're going to need to be in order to, you know what I mean, kind of like make your mark. And so, man, just seeing that and just really trying to be the best that I could be, man, at my craft.
Man, Jason, man, Che, man, we went to Hartford together, he was ahead of me in that class, man. So one day we couldn't practice at the school and we had to go practice at Martin. I had these new Jordans, man, me and my mom had gotten into a wreck. So I got me a little check, man, brought me some new J's. So I get to practice. And Che said, man, I forgot my shoes, man. I need to borrow your shoes. I was like, huh? He was like, man, can I borrow your shoes, man, to practice day? I'm going to give them back, but I left my shoes up at the school, man. I need to borrow your shoes, man. These brand new J's, man. I looked at Che nuts. I looked at my shoes like, I said, man, hey, because he was old enough, but he was cold. So it caught in my head. I didn't feel like I was being punked. I was thinking, man, Che want to wear my shoes, man. I'm like, Go ahead, man. You can hoop in my shoes. Hey, I'm gonna let Jay ball in my shoes. You know what I mean? So it was silly, man. He got me for my shoes, man. Maybe that was my way to rationalize. I'm getting Debo for my J's. You know.
Hey, Che, man, was cold, man. That
Streets
dude.
again. The
Ooh,
streets again, bro. The streets
yeah.
will get you, man. I hope he's okay right now. I'm praying for him. I hope he's okay. We used to hear so many stories. And you say Jordans. I mean, the last story I heard about him was that he was walking around the streets or something and got on drugs real bad or something. And I hope this is not true, but wearing some raggedy J's. I mean, that's the first thing somebody told me. He had some busted up J's walking around the Columbus area. So, man,
In
I don't know.
Columbus?
At that time.
I heard he was in Atlanta. I don't know where he at. I don't know what's going on.
At that time, I think he was still in Columbus. So
Okay.
I hope he's okay, man. So
Yeah.
So you get to your senior year, you know, your senior year, your campaign. Man, what did that look like, man? What was up, man?
So I think, man, a lot of the times what you get as a senior is a lot of the times predicated upon what you did as a junior. And so my junior year I had a pretty decent year, and played basketball too. And so a lot of guys and scouts and stuff was coming to our basketball practices for Che. And I ended up really getting some looks from that, from them realizing that I played. And so, man, the letters and stuff start really coming in heavy from a lot of different places. And obviously, letters don't necessarily mean nothing. It just sound good.
Yeah.
And so, but the ones that were exercising real interest wasn't the huge schools. It was the mid majors, the MAC schools, Akron, Ball State, Kent State, Ohio University, all of that stuff. But I tell you, man, one mistake that I feel like I made, because coming up out of Canton McKinley, the whole thing is you just want to go D1. Like you want to play Division I. Like that's the piece. That's what everybody wanted to do. And academically, man, I was good. And so I had an opportunity to play for Columbia, which is an Ivy League school. And they was going to make sure that my financials was taken care of. But it was a 1AA. And so back then, so they didn't 1AA. They would in Ivy League schools, I can't remember what it was. I don't know if they gave scholarships or it was 1AA gave partials. It was something. And but they were gonna make sure all my school was paid for. And I chose Akron instead of Columbia. And to this day, man, I could kick myself. I wish I would have went to Columbia University, man, and got that education and got that experience over there in New York. But I know all things work together, but like that's, so my senior year, man, was kind of filled with that, man. I end up winning Mr. McKinleyite at Canton McKinley. So that was a highlight of my senior year as well. And, getting a scholarship and signing on signing day and things of that nature,
Wow.
man, that was exciting. So, it was good, man.
Man, so so at the same time, you're balancing school life. You must have been getting good grades, homework. I mean, but I know Kent, man, those streets is right there, man, at all times. It's more than available. The kicking, the Y after the games, it get to jumping. We've lost a lot of comrades in the streets, man, during that era.
Yeah.
How did you find time to study to make sure you had your part, man? I mean, and then who are you like? What was your family dynamic like at that time as well? Like, how do you find time to do homework, bro?
So my family dynamic then was I was living with my dad and my grandma. So my grandma was the matriarch of the family. If I've ever known anybody, man, that walked with God, and this probably a lot of people's testimony pertaining to their grandma. But if I known anybody that walked with God, man, it was my grandma. It was missionary Lancaster, man. And she instilled God in me. My father did as well. But my grandmother, man, was just that stalwart. She was just, you know, staunch in it, and she lived it. And I watched her. And, you know, they say a lot of times things are caught and not taught. And so she didn't necessarily sit me down and drill me with scripture and drill me with church stuff, but just the life that she lived, I caught it. You know, I caught her study habits. She didn't make me sit down and study the Bible, but I caught her study habits. I seen it. And so, you know, just my father, he wasn't on no bad grades. He instilled in me from the time I moved with him when I was 9. He was like, you got to get a scholarship. And that's what he told me. And he planted that seed in me early. You got to get a scholarship. And so that's what I strove for. That's what I fought for. That's what I worked towards. And so, you know, he made sure that homework was going to get done. And he made sure that schoolwork was going to get done, because my athleticism was dependent upon my schoolwork. So, you know, the school has a certain standard, you know, a certain connection with athleticism and schoolwork, certain grades, you got to get a certain GPA. But my dad had his own standard. You know what I mean? He like, yeah, the school might say all you need is a 2.0, but I'm saying you need a 3.5. So you figure out how you're going to work this thing. You know what I mean? And so I knew in order for me to get on that field, get on that court, get on that diamond, that my grades needed to be at a certain level, or else I wasn't going to play. And he wasn't playing either. He was dead serious. And so, you know, those were some of, you know, a lot of times you got to have a why in what you do. That was my why for them grades, was like, I need to play this ball, so I got to make sure my grades is right.
Wow. Yeah, man. Yeah. So, man, you get to your freshman year in college, man. You guys, I think, were you a year behind me, right? I think
it was the same grade.
No, I came out 95. You came out 96?
I came out 95.
Oh, okay. So that is right. That is right. So we were in the same grade. I didn't immediately go to college, so I stayed home. And, that was a journey. But you guys went to school, and then I know you and Chantel, you and Lodge, I think I seen y'all at a party or something. When I think in like 95, I went to a party in Kent, man, and man, y'all was kicking it, man. Hey, man, y'all, what was that place in Kent called, man? The Underground or something, man?
Yeah.
I seen y'all at the Underground. I'm like, man, this life look amazing. Y'all was walking around. Y'all, man, you had put on so much muscle, man. Y'all was swole, man. I'm like, man, what? I just got done smoking some herbs, some mods, man. I get in there, I see y'all, man. I'm like, these kids, these brothers is swole, man. That college life, man, y'all got, man. Then you had the opportunity to play with Jason Taylor, man. But man, y'all hit the weight so hard, man. So your freshman year, man, what was that like, dog? I saw the transition, man. Y'all was up that month. What's going on, man?
And we had a crazy weight training coach. Bailey, Coach Bailey, we used to call him Biggins. He was nuts. I got introduced to the crazy Olympic lifts and all this wild stuff. He had us snatching and cleaning and jerking. I'm like, man, what is this? Let me get up under this bench and hit 225 a few times. And so he had us doing all of that type of stuff, man. And, you know, it was just a program, just a weight program. When I first got to college, for my first 2 years, Jason Taylor was my roommate. So, you know, in Brown Street, they had the quads.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he stayed in my quad for my first 2 years. And so, you know, he was a pretty straight and narrow guy, man. You know, like he wasn't really on no trash or nothing. He was going to work out. He was going to do, you know, pretty much what he was supposed to, get him a honey or two here or there. You know, nothing crazy, though. And, you know, so I was able to kind of stay on track because that's what I was looking to, you know, and he had a pretty good regimen and stuff like that he was sticking to. So, you know, my first, you know, freshman year of college, man, was really just, you know, that discovery piece. You know, when you get to college too, like it's a whole nother level of discovery other than high school. You know, each level of education, I think, introduces you to another level of discovery. So coming out of elementary, going into middle school, it's a level of discovery. Coming from middle school to high school, it's another level of discovery. And then, you know, coming from high school to college, it's another level of discovery because everybody was the man on their team. Everybody fast. Everybody good. Everybody's skill set is on another level. And so now, you know, you introduced to, you know, ain't no scrubs really on the squad. You know what I mean? Everybody good. You might not start, but there's different reasons for the reason why you don't start in college. You just might be an underclassman, or you might be in a doghouse. A lot of times it ain't because you can't play, you know. And so, you know, it's just that level of discovery, realizing like where I really was athletically, right? And so when I got there, I started realizing that I wasn't a phenomenal athlete. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't a phenomenal athlete. And I think this is where a lot of times people realize that, because even if you're excelling in high school, you got to get around other phenomenal athletes to know how phenomenal you are or how phenomenal you aren't. You know what I mean? And you'll learn real quick. So when I got to college, I realized like, okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10 athletically, I'm probably about a 7. You know what I'm saying? 7.5. But I can make up for it with being smart. So I started utilizing smarts and understanding how to position myself, because I wasn't just going to be able to get in position because I was so fast and so quick and athletically better than everybody. I needed to be smart. And so, you know, I started learning how to put that together.
Wow. The perfect storm when your athleticism and your intellect converges, and when they unite, it's a great marriage, man. And I try to tell players that a lot. You know, I mean, I got kids of all cultures, man. I coach at Archbishop Hogan, and you know, they come from different sides of town, man. And you might have been cold in CYO, man. You might have been cold West Pee Wee or South Pee Wee, but man, once you get on that field, we can start to measure and find, and as a coach, you start to understand, and I think that's how God does us as well. And we'll probably get into faith a little later, man. But He won't put more on you than you can bear, you know. Okay. So you start to manipulate and put individuals in positions to be the best they can be, you know, and represent their families well and not get injured. And also, you know, parents are like, man, my kids don't get enough time on the field. Well, you're not at practice when he's lost and getting burnt by the scout team. You getting burnt by the scout team offense. When we go play St. Ignatius,
he can't get in.
You don't get smoked, but you feel what I'm saying? So, I mean, preparation, man. The separation is in the preparation. You're exactly right. And to be able to have that measure, which is nothing wrong with that, to say, okay, I'm at this level, and to be honest, to say I'm a 7, so now I have to figure out what to do. What's my goal? What's my mission?
Yeah.
I have to figure out now, physically, I might be able to bench more than this guy, but mentally, where am I? You know.
Yeah. And then too, man, you realize in college, you realize that strength is cool, but athleticism is king. You realize that. And so, like, you get guys that come in there, they squatting all this weight, benching all that. That's cool. You got to be strong. But you start realizing, like, at the end of the day, them coaches don't care how much you can bench or squat. When you get that rock, can you get in the end zone? Can you run that route? Can you get open? Can you separate from that defender? You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that really matter when you get to college. Yeah. And so I realized that, you know, like, as in practice, everybody can look the same. And it's like in the layup line in basketball. Everybody look cold in the layup line. You know what I'm saying? Everybody look cold. You know what I'm saying? But man, when he in your face and you know what I'm saying, like, can you make that jumper with the hand in your, you know what I mean? That's what makes the separate, you know, when on the field, like, you might be fast and when at the end of practice, but you know, can you separate from that corner? That's what I need to know. You know what I'm saying? Like all that other stuff don't matter. So in college, you start realizing like, oh snap, like this man is fast with pads on. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's able to transition that speed into the game. It ain't just like, because you know, you get some track guys, they fast on the track, but you get them on the field, you like, what happened? Like,
Yeah, you got to be football fast.
yeah, you got to be football fast. And that's why like guys like Jerry Rice run a 4.6 in the 40, but he's also running that 4.6 out of his cuts. So you know what I'm saying? Out of his cuts, he's running full speed. He pulled away from dude. You know what I'm saying? And dude run a 4.4 in the 40 though, but out of his cuts, it take him a minute to catch up.
Yeah.
But Jerry, and he wide open. You know what I'm saying? So like you learn that stuff.
Yeah, man. Oh man. So your senior year, man, you graduated from the University of Akron, right?
Yeah.
You guys used to have study tables a lot, man, and you thrived as far as academically. What did you get your degree in? And you know, you graduated. What did you get?
So I got my degree in interpersonal and public communications, which, in my opinion, looking back on that, is just a fancy way of saying a bunch of nothing. You know? You know, man, when you get to college, if you're not careful or if you're not intentional, you'll just take whatever classes just to get in and start playing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I did, not really having no intentionality about it and really getting into a concentrated field, man.
That was silly, man. That's nothing. So, graduate, walk the stage, man. Were you one of the first individuals in your family to graduate from college, or you know, do you have an educated family where it's a number of people who walk the stage, or were you the first African American male out of your family to walk the stage? Like,
that's a good question. So my immediate family, yes. My extended family, I don't think so.
Okay.
But in my immediate family, yeah, like as I look at my mom's side of the family and I look at all of her siblings, none of them had graduated at that time ever. My father hadn't graduated. His sister, which is my aunt, she hadn't graduated. And her children hadn't graduated. So yeah, in my immediate family, yeah, I was the first one to graduate.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. That's a milestone. So man, let's fast forward, man. You graduate from college. What's your first job? If you got the nothingness that you just spoke of.
Yeah.
What's your first job after that?
So my first job was, so my boy was Willie Spencer, who played at Massillon.
Yeah.
And we was roommates at Akron for my first couple of years, and he ended up transitioning to Tiffin. And he balled out at Tiffin. And so he had ended up signing a deal with the Washington Redskins to be a part of their off-season workout program and to basically to be able to compete for a spot on the squad once, you know, summer workouts and two-a-days and all of that hit. So this was February of my senior year. And I ended up going there to kick it with him. And I ended up taking my resume out there. And so now, mind you, my senior year was after I had already been in trouble because I ended up losing my scholarship after my junior season because I got caught up in the street life and drugs and stuff. And so I ended up going to prison. And I went for about a year and I got out, and then I ended up going back to school, back to Akron. And I ended up getting my degree. And so, you know, that year when I went back to Akron, February, I went to kick it with Willie in Ashburn, Virginia, which is where the Redskins practice facility is. And I took my resume out there and I gave it to their public relations director. And make a long story short, they ended up calling me. So I ended up getting a job. It was more like an internship, working for the Washington Redskins the summer of 2001, which is right after I graduated.
So you, man, I remember that, dog. I'm like, man, they like Juice, and got locked up, man. I'm like, what, man? I'm like, what do you mean? You know, like, yeah, man, like, so, man, what happened, dog? Like, I heard about it, man, and, you know, this is my first time actually getting to talk to you about it, you know, man, you know what I mean? This is the juice, man. You know, this, what?
Yeah.
You know, this intelligent young African-American male, athletic, I admired your ability because, I made a number of mistakes and didn't get to play in college, which, you know, like you said, the letters come, and I remember Kent State coming to the school, you know, because I went to Timpton, but playing against those teams in the Federal League, they saw me. I had a lot of options to go to college, so I'm like, man, I messed up my opportunity. I just ended up at the University of Akron because of Mary Ellis. Lauren Ellis's mother said, I got into trouble, and I got arrested. And she said, your ass is going to school.
Yeah.
She filled out all the paperwork for me to go to college, so that's how I got there. So to see that you was in a position, I looked up to you too. Like, man, that's what I would love to do.
Yeah.
Man, you go to prison, man. How did you get wrapped up into that? Our discussion with Dwight Smith the last time, we talked about Jay-Z, that song, I always got it in my head, and I'll say it again. The allure of the game is pulling you in. Well,
yeah.
What was that like, man? How did you balance street life in school, man? Then you get popped up.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. It's man, and we don't really like to talk about it a lot. And I think honestly, man, a lot of the music that our kids are listening to, it can be very detrimental, man. Me listening to that music really messed me up because it was painting a picture of a life that I ended up growing an affinity for. And in my mind, the only way that I could live that life is to do the things that they were saying they were doing in those songs. And so, you know, like that music, man. And so I ended up, you know, getting involved and, you know, listening to it, you know, and I ended up imitating what I was hearing, you know, being in school and moving weight, you know what I mean? Like it was like some sort of was a suspense like that. I want like something I wanted to conquer, and so I'm moving weight, playing football, and doing this craziness. So I lost my scholarship before I went to prison. So I ended up losing my scholarship because the coaches ended up catching wind that I was just involved in some ridiculousness, just to make a long story short. And I lost my scholarship, and then I ended up going back to Canton. And this all happened, man, within like a 2 to 3 month time frame. So I lost my scholarship around about April. And I ended up going back to Canton. And ended up just hanging around, you know, some cats and doing some things that I shouldn't have been doing. And I ended up catching a case, and I ended up going to prison. So it's all happened, man, within 3 to 4 months after I left Akron.
Whoa.
It was quick. Yeah, it happened quick. And so I go down, and I ended up getting out. I went to boot camp, ended up getting out. And, you know, went back to school and got the job working for the Redskins.
Man, so your guy was still working with you, even with a lot of guys. So that was a felony, man.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, what was the charge? You know,
it was, man, that was so long ago. I want to say something to do with some cocaine. I want to say maybe possession of cocaine or something. It was something. I can't even remember, bro. exactly what the charge was.
Do you remember your number? I was talking to my cousin the other day, man. Do you remember your A? And it like A
Yeah,
7523674?
no, I don't, man. I'll probably forget that thing. Hey, I wanted to forget that puppy, man, for real.
Man,
But
you get to jail, man. Was it like, you know, we hear all these stories about prison, man. Like, was you what did you start out in Stark County? They said that's filthy, and then did you get shipped out
yep,
to somewhere else? What
yep.
did you?
So
So take us through that.
I went to Stark County, and then I ended up getting transferred to Lorraine. That's the intake spot for people that's in basically Northeast Ohio, and it was crazy, just to say the least. Like, it was a culture shock. You know, they herding men like cow, you know, and it just was what it was. And I never forget, man, I got introduced to the severity of prison quick. And, you know, I was in still great shape. You know, I was in great shape, man. And I was in there, man, and started working out with a couple of guys. And I never forget, my bunkie was a little older dude. And, you know, man, we was just silly young cats, man, making light and jokes and stuff all the time. And I was playing this card game with him. We was in the cell while I was playing this card game with him. And I think we was playing the casino or Tunk or Speed or something. And I was tearing his mouth out and laughing and joking, you know what I mean? He'd cracking jokes, talking all types of junk. And he got a little offended. And I can't remember what he said or whatever. And so, you know, we start having words. And I'm looking at him and I'm looking at me and I'm like, I like my chances, you know? But he said something to me that really made me think. And I really learned the severity of prison. He said, you better leave me. He said, if you ain't trying to kill nothing, leave me alone.
Wow.
And, you know, like, I was thinking to myself, like, I want to beat you up. I don't want to kill you. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
You know what I mean? Like, I got your eye or something up in here, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to kill you. And
hey, I think that statement can only be said. That's a penitentiary statement. That's a jail. That's an incarcerated word. Hey, if somebody look at you and say, man, I'm going to use that. I'm going to tell one of these young dudes who want to step up, you ain't trying to kill nothing.
Leave me alone. Yeah, and so I realized that he was like, he not in this just to win or lose. If he engages in that type of combat, like, he's trying to kill. And I was like, and you know, so I was like,
and you swore, hey, you like
all that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I left him alone. And it wasn't because I didn't think I could beat him. It's just because I didn't want to kill him. Because right. I was like, he's gonna try to kill, you know what I mean? So I was like,
it was gonna be a cycle of if you didn't destroy him, it was gonna be a cycle in which he continuously came at you. You sleep, you know, yeah.
And I didn't know, because he had experience in this. He had did multiple bids before this. And so I didn't know what his capabilities was. I didn't know if he had sharpened up the end of a toothbrush and it was real sharp. It was going to shank me. I didn't know what was going on. You know what I'm saying? I was new to this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, the best thing for me to do is let that alone.
Hey, man, he was like, I ain't new to this. I'm true to this, man.
Yeah.
So, man, were there any other instances, you know, a lot of guys, man, and we're not trying to make prison okay, man. Man, what were some of the pressures, man, you know, that you felt every single day, man? Was it 6 months you stayed before boot camp, or What were some of the pressures, man? What were some of the ills that you faced?
I'm gonna tell you, man. Being out and really getting educated about the plight of the black male made me look back on that and realize how crazy it was. Right, going through it. I knew I was a young black man, but I didn't have all of the information and the education around black men in America during that time. So I'm just in there, just living and bebopping through life. You know what I mean? Just making it. But as I began to get education and realize and understand the danger of the black male and understand the implications of mass incarceration and new slavery and stuff like that, and I look back on that, I'm like, wow. Like, I was literally part of what people are highlighting now as it pertains to mass incarceration and the new form of slavery and things of that nature. Like, I was literally involved in that.
Wow.
And it's mind-blowing, bro.
So you get out, get the job with the Redskins, and you start to move your way, rebuilding your newfound freedom, Yeah. Getting out, the day you got out, man, did you leave boot camp? And can you remember the day you actually just was like, man, I'm out? What was that like, bro?
So I got out, and I lived with my grandma, and I got out and I went downtown and got my ID and everything. And I went and re-enrolled at Akron University. And I got out in June 21st of 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out and I went and re-enrolled. I went to summer school at Akron to catch up, and was enrolled for that school year.
Oh, man.
Yep. And reconnected with some of my football cats. Me and Whiteface reconnected because that was my dog. And we connected, man. We kicked it and stuff, and end up going through and finishing out. So yeah, it felt good, man.
So when did you know you had a calling in your life? So you did you become because I know you're an entrepreneur. So when did you realize you had a calling in your life to go into the ministry? You're a shepherd now. You're leading. You flipped it. Now you're coaching souls. You're returning the gift. So when did you feel that pull, that tug to know that, man, I'm called into this thing, man. I'm about to go head first, and I'm going putting it all down. God. So
it didn't happen then because I got in trouble 2 more times. So it didn't happen then. When I finished working for the Redskins for that summer, they were offering me a job. They were getting ready to open up a slew of paraphernalia stores in the Washington, D.C. area. I knew I had that felony on my record. So to get in with the internship and stuff, they didn't really do that extensive of a background check. So I knew I had that felony. And so I was afraid to let them know about my past because I knew that they wanted me to become a manager of one of those stores and stay connected. I knew I was going to have to disclose my past, and I thought that my past was going to lock me out of my future. And so instead of just, talking to him and saying, hey, man, look, here's a situation. I got into a little trouble. It's behind me now. I'm starting fresh. That's not my. And so instead of having that conversation, I ended up going back to Canton. The worst thing I could have did. And so, but anyways, I started a business in Canton called Platinum Plus Cut and Wash. So it was a barbershop and a car wash. And because I had an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
And so in the car wash and the barbershop was booming. So it was some next level stuff, really. Like, honestly, Canton wasn't ready for that. Yeah, it was more of a big city idea. So, it was jumping, but I ended up getting back into hustling.
Yeah.
Start hustling again. So now I'm hustling. I got the barbershop, car wash, and I got a degree. And I had some opportunities too, man, to really like get into professional football. Like, believe it or not, I had a friend of mine, his name was Morocco Brown. And he's since been GMs of professional football teams. And he was in the pro personnel department for the Redskins when I did my internship. And ended up firing their whole staff and bringing in Marty Schottenheimer and them. But he ended up getting a job for the Chicago Bears. And so Willie Spencer, who was trying out for the Redskins, got cut. I called Morocco and was like, hey, man, you need to give Willie a shot, because Willie was balling. Willie was out there killing Champ Bailey and Darryl Green and all of these cats. I watched it with my own eyes. My mind was blown.
Wow.
And he took it to another level, bro. And and I knew they didn't give him a fair shake because I seen it, and I was unbiased in my opinion too. So I called Morocco, and in many ways, when I told Morocco about Willie, he brought Willie out to Chicago. Willie ended up making their practice team, and me and Morocco was keeping contact. He's like, man, I want to get you in the pro personnel department, man. I want to get you scouting and stuff. He was actually sending me footage to break down and terminology and just things of that nature that they were using, you know. But I got caught up, man. I got caught up, you know, and just, you know, end up going back to prison again.
Man, so what was the word getting out? Like, how did you get investigated? Like, were they, first off, you own a company, a unique company. Maybe they were watching. Like, how did you get caught up, man? With snitches, you know, like, man, snitches get stitches. Somebody hate on you, man. How you get caught up, man?
So man, I was hustling, man. Getting weed sent from Arizona, and end up getting caught up in that. End up getting caught up in that, man. And
then you get caught up in that. They know you got a prior felony drug charge.
Yes.
Then did you have to do a year? How long did you do then?
So I went to prison for another 10 months. Believe it or not, I ended up getting another early release program.
Wow.
So I went for 10 months, got out.
What prison was that? Was you back in Lancaster, or did you go?
So I went to Pickaway.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I went to Pickaway, got out, got back into the streets, got caught again.
Hey,
now,
you like my son. I tell my son, you ain't good at doing bad, man. You might as well stop.
Hey,
you terrible at doing bad, boy.
You telling the truth.
You ain't good at doing bad, man.
You telling the truth. So here's the deal. So just getting to the point to where I realized that God had something different for me. So it took that third time for me to realize that God has something different for me. He was sparing my life. He had a different purpose. And this is how I realized, because a lot of people like, bro, like 3 times, like what's she? And what I tell a lot of people is the same feeling that I felt after that third time is the same feeling that my one boy, he got pulled over by the state trooper one time for speeding. And I talked to him about it. He's like, they ain't got to worry about me no more.
I'm cool.
He was cool. And so that same feeling that he felt after a warning from a state trooper, it took me 3 times to the penitentiary to get to that feeling.
So how many years? Now, was that another 10 months or a year? Or?
Oh, no, that was 4 years.
You did 4 years in prison.
So they told me 4 years. When they told me 4 years, I thought they said life. I couldn't see the end.
4 years, dog.
Yes, 4 years. So accumulation of the first 2 was about 2, a little over 2. And then this time they said 4. I thought it was life.
Man.
Let me tell you my conversion experience. Now, mind you, I grew up in church. My father was preaching. I told you about my grandmother. My conversion experience happened in the Stark County Jail. I was in there, and there was this little Caucasian boy. He was 18 years old. He was in there, and he was on trial for murder. He told me the truth. He said he went over there and was pretending like he wanted to buy some weed, but the whole plan and intention was for him to rob the guy of the weed. So when he went over there, the dude wasn't having it. Dude wasn't trying to get robbed. So he ended up having to shoot and kill him.
Wow.
And and he's on trial for this. Telling me about it. We talking for about 15, 20 minutes. And then he said, but enough about me though, man. He's like, what you know about Jesus Christ? He transitions and pivots in the midst of this conversation as he's on trial for murder, and he starts witnessing to me about Christ in a holding cell in Stark County Jail. Bro, broke me down. Tears just start streaming down my face right in that instance because I knew.
God was using him. God was using him right then.
Yep.
The Creator was using him right at that moment.
And so I gave my life to Christ right then, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big, man. He will. I remember reading in the scriptures years ago when I first started. He will come find you wherever you are.
Yeah.
If you in hell, he'll come see you there. You know what I mean? No matter what place you in, his presence is everywhere. When I understood the presence of God and you can't hide from him, that blew my mind. That's when I started humbling myself, man.
Yeah.
And he came to get you in that place, man. What a powerful testimony, man. Man. So of the 4 years, how many did you actually do? Did you get
4
any?
years.
What was it? Fair time? What was it?
It was state time. So I gave my life to Christ. I ended up going to Marion Correctional Institution.
Yeah.
And this guy who was in the dorm that I was in, he seen me read my Bible. And I had me a butt-naked Bible. You know, one of the Bibles that all it says Holy Bible on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And no commentary, no reference.
Like a hotel Bible, man.
Yeah, like a hotel Bible.
Just Bible.
I got my Bible, and he was like, man, he said, I want to introduce you to this guy. He's like, man, he's in his word real heavy. He's like, I think he could really help you. I was like, okay. His name was Carl Chapman. He's still locked up to this day. Carl Chapman is amazing. At that time, he had 17 years in. This was back in 2006 or 2007. At that time, he was 17 years in the penitentiary. I've been around, since I've been out, I've been around some guys that know the word. I'm talking about, I've been around some high-level preachers and pastors, you know what I'm saying, from T.D. Jakes to everybody else. And this dude, Carl, I've never met anybody like Carl Chapman. I mean, he was unbelievable. But when I first met him, I had that little butt-naked Bible with me. And I went to him and I said, hey, man, I was referred to you. I was like, you know, I gave my life to the Lord, man. I was like, I need some guidance in this thing. He's like, you sure? I was like, yeah. He said, you ready to live for the Lord? He's like, yeah. He said, okay. He said, put your Bible down then. And for me, I'm like, what you talking about? Put my Bible down. I need my Bible. I'm trying to live saved. He like, nah, put your Bible down. He said, we're going to need to deal with some root foundational stuff. He said, because a lot of guys, when they give their life to God, they try to hide behind scripture and hide behind the Bible and not really deal with what's going on with them as a person. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and so he's the one who got me to start talking about my molestation and everything. Bro, I was 30 years old. Nobody never even knew I was molested. I never told anybody. And so through my heart-to-heart conversations with Carl, because he was like, man, he said, how hypocritical is it for you to start studying and learning about Paul and Jesus, and you don't even know yourself? And I was like, man. And so we had talks for a long while, crying, snotting, tearing, bringing these things up that I had never discussed before.
sanctification. You went through your sanctification phase, the purification, cleansing phase.
Yeah. And it was the best thing ever, man. It was the best thing ever because I got a chance to really unveil who I was. You know what I mean? And before I start trying to like find out other things, you know? And so that was beautiful, man. And we ended up turning Marion Correctional Institution inside out, bro, for Christ.
Wow. Wow. So was that within your first year, right?
Man, that was within my first 3 to 4 months of being locked up.
And then you got your second year, third year. You no fights, no.
I was blessed, man, to get along with everybody. Honestly, my walk with Christ spoke volumes to a lot of people. Cause you know, man, cats can tell when you faking and when you're not. Especially cats in the joint, like they're around deceit and deception all day, every day. And they've seen guys come in and out of there, man, and just use religion to pass the time and stuff. They've seen it a million times.
Right.
And so they can tell when you for real and when you're not. And I had a lot of respect because they knew I was for real.
Yeah. We we met the other day. We were talking about the shooting that took place the other day, and you know, we were talking about, man, when a wolf see a wolf, he knows a wolf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When a lion see a lion, it's recognizable. You know, but when a wolf see a sheep, you know what I mean? I remember an old gangster saying that, man. When a wolf see a sheep, you pull up the gas station. I'm a wolf. I see a wolf. I'm like, oh, that's a wolf. When I see a sheep, you know what I mean? So therefore, they knew there was a lion inside of you, and you had a larger purpose, and your identity reflected that, and you lived it, and you were consistent in that. Because I probably just like anywhere else, word would get around quick if you got little hookups, or if you was using drugs or selling drugs in jail, or some of the smaller things. But they knew your consistency, and they had to respect that. That's the fear of God. That proves to me that the power of God exists. I mean, in that testimony, because you're talking about in prisons. I heard one prisoner say that bad is good in here. Bad is good in here. So if you're trying to survive, man, and all that you had around you, and understanding Paul's story, Saul to Paul, and him being incarcerated, writing his letters from prison, I bet you that was really encouraging, man. You know, you know, what did you think about that story about Paul, man, and how much did the story of Paul or Saul becoming Paul and him getting his new name, how much did that impact your life?
Man, I think it gave me courage, and it gave me confidence, and it gave me hope, because, you know, I think a lot of the times, man, when people read scriptures, the worst thing to do is to take the humanity out of it. These is regular mere men that God was using to do some amazing things. And so for me, it gave me courage and confidence, because I was like, well, shoot, if God can use Paul, it's not like Paul has some superpowers or anything. If God can use Paul, then God can use, you know, an individual like myself. And so, you know, just kind of hanging on, you know, to what God did through Paul is I think what really gave me, you know, the confidence to really continue to push on, man. And it was amazing. Like, my relationship with God was at its highest when I was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, just, you know, there was nothing there. I call it Holy Ghost University, bro, because it's just me and God, you know, right. No outside forces, no influencers. Whenever I was getting,
you went to HGU.
Yeah. So
hey,
it was
man,
good.
Hey, you T-shirt. That's a T-shirt.
Yeah, that's a T-shirt, ain't it?
We got to do it now. It's over.
Yeah.
HGU, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's done. Hey.
Yeah.
Putting them in your church. Start getting them together. I'll go to HGU, Holy Ghost University. That's cold, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was it, bro. So, and you know, man, it was just, really like building some relationships and some study habits and
Okay.
you know, some disciplines, some spiritual disciplines that I think are critical, you know, in the life of the believer and stuff like that. So really just building that foundation, that godly foundation. And I'll never forget, my dad came to see me one time, and you know, cats in jail, bro, like we get real deep in jail. You know, cats get to philosophize, you know, all types of stuff, man. Yeah, because, you know, I was reading, man, in the book of Asher, you know, cats in jail, silly, man. And so, you know, and you ask a cat what he was doing with his locker, man, just sitting there reading, fam. You know how cats be, man. And so, and I was talking to my dad this one time, though, and, you know, we was talking about this specific scripture. And my father was like, Julius, I got to be honest. He said, you're probably going to be disappointed when you go to church when you get out. And I was like, why? He said, because Julius said, they're not getting it like that. He's like, church ain't, he's just watered down. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? This is what he was saying. And, you know, like I didn't understand it because like my first real encounter with God was in prison. Right. And so like I encountered him through other people before prison, but like my real encounter was prison. And so like he raised me up in that way. So I didn't have anything to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I ended up coming out, like I understood what my dad was saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a little different. You know what I mean? And so, you know, but then you end up learning and adapting and things of that nature because it's just more to life out here.
Right.
It's a little easier to live saved in there too. Like people think it might be difficult because you got criminals and stuff, but you can't go through the drive-through in there on a hot summer day and see that 6-pack with the frost on the outside of it.
Right.
Like you can out here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
it's not as many distractions.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Out here, so many distractions, and there's females and there's women and there's all of this, and it's like you trying to live saved, but it's this. In there, it ain't all that. So it's like you almost got like a one-track mind, you know? So, and it's good though as a Kickstarter though.
Right. And that's going to like when Moses had to go away from the congregation, and then he had to go to that place, man. That's what happened to me in college, man. You know, that was my sanctification phase after my first year of college. I had that moment where somebody out of nowhere just told me I needed to read the Bible. Curtis Motley, you know what I mean? With my best friend, my roommate, he ended up becoming my roommate. But that small thing, like, man, who you talking to, dog? You know what I mean? You know, so that haunted me. I'm like, we kicking it at the tea house and we partying. I'm yelling and screaming. How out of all this you tell me that I need to read the Bible? So I kind of got offended. But then I was like, why is this dude out of nowhere just telling me right now? It's like you kind of got creepy, like, why would he say that right now? You know, so then that's something I start reading the Bible, man. So I didn't get saved in church. I got saved at home. I got saved over that. But that's the sanctification. That's a good feeling, man. That's when you going through that cleansing process, man, you abstaining, ain't getting no coochie, no nothing, man. You just ain't nothing but Holy Ghost power, man. You know what I mean? You like you said, bro. So you went through your sanctification phase, man. You get out, and man, 4 years you get out. What were your steps? What were some steps that you took that you could probably tell some inmates that will be getting out soon or have plans to get out? I know Marco Morgan. Hopefully we can send this to him. He can play this for. He works at Indian River. Him and his brother. Man, what are some things, some steps? Okay, once I get out and I get back into the population, what are some steps that you took that were successful to catapult you to where you are right now?
This is what I knew when I left prison. Somebody asked me what I was going to do or what did I have. I told them all I had was a dream. One thing I knew when I left prison is that more important for me than getting a good job, making $30 an hour or whatever the case may be, was going to be for me to get surrounded around a solid group of people. And so, because if I wasn't around a solid group of people that could keep my mind straight, then I wouldn't have that job for long. And so I knew I needed to get around a solid group of people. I didn't know who, how, when, or what. I was in the halfway house in Columbus, which was the downtown YMCA, 40 West Long Street. And I was walking, looking for jobs. And man, I never forget, I was walking across Broad Street, downtown Columbus, and I heard somebody call my name out of nowhere. And I'm like, man, who calling my name? I'm looking around, and I look, and it's Butch Washington.
Wow.
And so Butch is calling my name like, Jew. And so I'm like, what's up? And so we talked for a minute, and I told him my situation. And I was like, what's going on with you? And mind you, I knew I needed to be around some good people. So he told me that he was at his father-in-law's church, who is also Mike Young's father-in-law, because they're married to sisters. And so I ended up getting connected, reconnected, you know, because we all play football together at Akron. Ended up getting reconnected with them. And Mike was just an elder then. He ended up becoming assistant pastor, and now he's the pastor. But God ended up placing me around that environment, fresh out of prison.
The team, the squad.
Yeah.
Come on, man. God's hand, man, been on you, man. Oh, man. And you taking us through this, man. His spirit guiding you, man. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing testimony, man.
Yeah.
Out of all things that can happen, man, I just, and anybody watching this, man, if you don't understand the power and the spirit and the majesty and the provision that God, the protection of the Most High God, the King of Israel, man, if you don't understand, I know this is about sports and athletics, but a lot of times our faith comes through. If you don't understand, this is one of the testimonies that you can use to maybe be a stepping stone for your curiosity. If you're seeking or searching, this is a primary example of the faith, man. So you're a reverend now, and a business owner. Highlight those points, man.
So, man, I got a job working for $7.70 an hour out of the penitentiary. It was a win for me, because in jail you make $20 a month, not $20 a day, not $20 a week. You make $20 a month. So I got a job making $7.70 an hour. I ended up excelling on this job and ended up becoming general manager. It was at a fitness facility. Make a long story short, I met my wife in Sunday school. We got married. We had 2 children. But I ended up, man, starting a commercial cleaning business, and it was just like on some humbug type stuff. So we started a commercial cleaning business, man, and God put his hand on that thing immediately, and it just took off. Like, it's just God. Like, I don't even have, it is not nothing. I never in my life had aspirations of having a cleaning business. I never even knew they made money. I never even thought about it before. And man, we started one, and God put his hand on. I had no experience in this industry, nothing. God was just providing. And we started it in May of 2014. Here we are in 2020. And man, God has sustained it crazy. Wow. My wife don't work a job, regular job. She runs the business with me. And we've been blessed to make, more money than I ever dreamed. You know what I mean? Not saying that I'm a millionaire or anything, but just the business has just provided for us, man. And it's just nothing but the grace of the Lord, just really all over it. And so,
How did you get the grocery store?
So that's a partnership, an investment group partnership. And we all went in, and this just happened here within the last month. Yep. And, but we started I Am Church, man, in 2018.
You said I
While I
am,
was
I am church, right?
Yep, I am church. When I was in prison during those 4 years, God had, I believe he had spoke to me and told me he wanted to plant a church. I didn't believe it because it sounded like an oxymoron to me. Like I thought to myself, like, who gonna want to listen to what I gotta say? You know, like I'm a criminal. You know, I've been in prison, and but I put those words and I put them in my back pocket. And, you know, as I was maturing and stuff in my faith and serving at my local church, which was at is now City of Grace, but then it was Christ Cathedral, where Pastor Mike is,
Yeah.
he began to just reveal to me more and more about what he spoke to me in prison about pastoring a church. And we would have conversations, Pastor Mike and I, about it. And, you know, just, you know, leading up to it and stuff like that. And then I started feeling a call more and more in 2017. So he and I had a conversation about it, and we put together a plan, exit strategy, and we ended up launching in 2018, man. And God's been blessing it, bro.
Man, I'm gonna have to come down, man. I'm gonna come down, man. Me and my fiance, we'll come down, and hopefully I can get the kids together, man. We come down and have fellowship. So
Yeah.
Family life. Papa, you said 2 kids?
3 kids.
3 kids. So what's the age ranges?
So my daughter is 14. She just turned 14. Pray for me, Doc.
Oh, Lord.
My sons are 8 and 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I got 4 myself, man. You can only put I think at some point you putting the gospel on them, and then sooner or later it's gonna get in them. You know, you just put it on them. It's on the surface for a minute, but then when I believe, you know, I got 3 daughters, and you know, I got a 20-year-old. My oldest is 20. She's 20, and my son Marcus will be 18 coming here. Samaya, my middle daughter, just turned 16, and then I got a 10-year-old. You know, she just turned 10 on August 17th. So just man, like you said, the influences, you know, all the stuff that's coming at them, man. But when they know they can come to daddy, it ain't nothing like, man, that you know, you're the entertainment to them. You know, you can never be mama. Mamas is just amazing. You know what I mean? I can never compete with being mother or mama. Mamas is just mamas, but you know, that beacon of light for them and that sense of protection and what you give in provision and support, man, you know, you just got to hold on to it, man. We can't even predict, man. I got so many snowballs hitting the back of the head with all these snowballs of life, man. Like, my kids come with some stuff, man, but I got some stories. We're going to have to chop it up. Like, raise them up, man. When I hear my kids speak or when they go somewhere, the light that they have, that glow, and I'll show someone like, you got the best kids ever. I'm like, huh? I'm like, they're like, man, your kids, they're respectful and this and that, man. It comes out of them. You put it on them, you get in them, it's gonna come out of them, man. That's the right thing about it, man. So how long you been married, brother?
So, 12. So this was 8 years. It'll be 9 years coming up in February.
Oh, congratulations. So, what closing out, you know, what do you have to say? The world is in chaos, so-called, you know what I mean? You know, I talked to my neighbor yesterday, man. If Tony, I call him Tony the Tiger, white guy, man. We've gotten so close, man, and we've gone beyond politics, man. And yesterday we just agreed that there's a family of believers, and the Lord is bringing us together beyond politics, beyond the economy, beyond the disease and the mayhem. You know, me and him just agreed yesterday, like, man, we're different. You know, and he talked to me, man. He's like, he's so sick of what's going on in the world and the violence and the mental calamities that are taking place, man. What do you have to say to the world today, man, before we close out, man? What's your message? I mean, take your time. What's your message?
Man, if if I could speak to the world, I think one of the things that I would say is that there's unity in our diversity, and I think love conquers all. And I think love transcends and super exceeds ideologies. It transcends and super exceeds race. It transcends and super exceeds classism. It transcends and super exceeds economic status, socioeconomic status, and all of the things that tend to separate us. I think love is the unifying force, and I think that's one of the things that is missing. And so, you know, in the midst of our opinions, our perspectives, our thought processes, the thing that we have most in common that I think gets overlooked is the fact that we're all human beings. And if we can unite around the fact that we're all human beings, first off and foremost, I think it would alleviate a lot of the pressure and a lot of the different things that tend to separate us. And I would say, man, that we need to really, really, really hone in on how to love one another, man, the way that Christ does.
Man, well said, man. Hey, Reverend Juice.
Yeah.
Hey, God bless you, man. The viewers, if you're in the Columbus area, I believe you have a website too, the I Am Church.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys touch in, go visit the I Am Church. Make sure your athletes. I would encourage, because we are a sports center organization. Your athletes need to hear from this gentleman. I believe he's not only a reverend but a coach, and he can empower your communities, your athletic programs as well. He has a lot to bring to the table. Thank you for being vulnerable, man. Hey, I love you, bro. We got to keep this going, man.
Love you, man.
Going, man. I think we need to just do a platform. I might schedule somewhere. Me, you, Dwight. Now, Bradford would have been on here this morning, but Ellery, he had his nephews, so he usually on time and in, man. You know,
Yeah.
Ellery's brilliant, man. You know,
He
so
is.
yeah, he is, man. God bless you and your family, and thanks for your time, brother. Love you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Love you.